The moment your paycheck hits your bank account, you have exactly 15 seconds before your brain starts making terrible financial decisions. And I'm not exaggerating, not even a little. 15 seconds. That's genuinely all it takes for most people to mentally spend money they haven't even laid eyes on yet. And the worst part? They don't even realize it's happening in real time. Your brain instantly lights up. It starts calculating how much you can blow on that shiny new gadget you've been eyeing, how many times you can justify ordering takeout this month without feeling guilty, and whether you can finally pull the trigger on those shoes that have been sitting in your online shopping cart since last Tuesday, silently taunting you every time you open the app. But what if I told you that those same 15 seconds, the same short window that usually destroys your financial future, could actually be the difference between staying broke forever and building the kind of real, lasting wealth that most people only dream about? What if there was a simple, repeatable routine you could follow every single time you get paid that would automatically put you ahead of 90% of people financially without requiring a high income, without a finance degree, without some secret investment strategy that only rich people know about? My name is Finn, and welcome to Finn Invest. This is the channel where I've spent years helping everyday people figure out exactly what to do with their money the moment it shows up in their accounts. If you're tired of wondering where all your cash mysteriously disappears to every month, and you actually want to start building something meaningful with the income you already have, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now and smash that like button if this information genuinely helps you out, because it tells the algorithm to show this video to more people who desperately need to hear it. Here's something that might genuinely shock you when you really stop and think about it. The average person has absolutely no clue what actually happens to their money after they get paid. And that's not an insult, it's just the uncomfortable truth. They know their rent somehow gets paid on time. They know food magically appears in their kitchen throughout the week. They know their Netflix subscription renews itself without any effort on their part. But beyond those basic anchor points, their financial life is complete, unfiltered chaos. From the 1st of the month to the 30th. They're basically financial sleepwalkers, stumbling through life in a fog, wondering why they never seem to have anything left over at the end of the month, no matter how much they earn. And here's the cruel twist. Getting a raise almost never fixes the problem, because the chaos scales right along with the paycheck, and the leftover money stays at exactly zero. The uncomfortable reality is this. Most people treat their paycheck like a surprise birthday gift from a generous aunt, instead of treating it like the powerful, compounding, wealth-building tool it actually is. They get excited the moment it arrives. They spend most of it on random stuff they probably don't truly need, or even remember buying a week later. And then they spend the last 2 weeks of the month eating cereal for dinner and checking their bank balance every few hours like it's somehow going to refill itself through sheer willpower. But successful people, the ones who actually build real wealth over time, they do something completely and fundamentally different. They have a system. They have a rock-solid routine, and that routine kicks into motion the exact moment their paycheck arrives in their account. It's not complicated, it's not sexy, and it definitely won't get you a million followers on social media or a feature in a glossy finance magazine, but it works, and it works so consistently that once you actually start doing it for yourself, you'll genuinely wonder how you ever managed your money any other way before. Here's the secret nobody explains properly. Your paycheck isn't just money you earned during the past 2 weeks of clocking in and grinding through meetings. It's actually your future financial freedom, chopped up into small monthly installments and delivered to you in a predictable rhythm. Every single dollar that lands in your account is a tiny building block, and that block can either contribute to your growing wealth over time or disappear permanently into the black hole of mindless, emotional, unconscious spending. Most people approach their entire financial life completely backwards without ever realizing it. And it's the single biggest reason they stay broke for decades. They pay all their bills first, they buy whatever they happen to want in the moment, and then at the very end of the month, they try to save whatever happens to be left over in the account. Spoiler alert, there is never ever anything left over, because expenses have a funny way of expanding to fill exactly the amount of money available. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a giant hole punched through the bottom and then wondering why you can't seem to hold any water no matter how fast you pour. The people who actually build serious wealth flip this entire flawed process on its head from day one. They pay themselves first, before anyone else gets a cent. They allocate every single dollar with clear intention and a specific job to do. And they make their money work just as hard as they did to earn it in the first place. They deeply understand that real financial success isn't about making more money. Although earning more certainly helps accelerate the process, right? It's actually about having a repeatable system that works consistently, regardless of how much you happen to earn in any given year. Think about it this way for a second, because this example blows most people's minds. If you make $50,000 a year and you save and invest 10% of it consistently over decades, you're going to be in dramatically better financial shape than someone who makes $100,000 a year but spends every single penny they earn as fast as it comes in. The person making less money but following a disciplined system will retire comfortably with options, while the higher earner will be working until they're 80 years old because they never learned how to manage what they already had. That single comparison should terrify you if you've been relying on the idea that a bigger paycheck will magically fix everything. And it brings us directly to the foundation of everything we're going to break down in the rest of this video. Before you can build any kind of lasting wealth, you absolutely need to know exactly where your money is going every single month. And I mean exactly. Not some vague mental idea about your major expenses, but a precise, written down, undeniable understanding of how every dollar gets allocated from the second it enters your account. The first step in our paycheck routine is something that sounds boring on the surface, but is absolutely critical to your long-term financial success. And skipping it is why most people fail. You need to determine what percentage of your income actually goes toward real necessities, the kind of things you genuinely cannot live without under any circumstances. We're talking about housing costs, like your rent or mortgage payment, food that actually keeps you alive and functioning, basic, reliable transportation to get you to work, essential utilities like electricity and water, and healthcare that keeps you from going bankrupt if something goes wrong. Notice very carefully what I did not include: your premium cable package with 300 channels you never watch, your gym membership you haven't used since the second week of January, or your subscription to 17 different streaming services that all show the same shows anyway. Those expenses might feel absolutely necessary when you're halfway through binge watching your favorite series on a Sunday night, but they are not actually required for your basic survival, no matter how hard your brain tries to convince you otherwise. Here's where the overwhelming majority of people get this calculation completely and disastrously wrong. They sit down, they look at their list of monthly expenses, and they systematically convince themselves that literally everything on that list is a non-negotiable necessity. That expensive car payment on a vehicle they didn't really need becomes essential transportation. The daily $5 coffee shop visits become necessary fuel for workplace productivity. The weekly restaurant meals with friends become crucial social activities for maintaining their mental health and relationships. But here's the reality check you probably don't want to sit through. And I'm going to deliver it anyway because you need to hear it. If you're spending more than 60% of your total take-home pay on what you consider true necessities, one of two things is definitely happening. Either you're living somewhere that's genuinely too expensive for your current income level, or you're deliberately calling a bunch of luxuries necessities because it makes you feel significantly better about your spending choices. Both of those problems are absolutely fixable, but only if you're willing to be brutally honest with yourself about what's really going on. Let me walk you through a real numerical example that might help put all of this into much sharper perspective. Imagine someone out there earning $75,000 per year at their job. After taxes get taken out, they're taking home roughly $4,750 each month. If their rent is $1,800, their car payment is $400, and they spend $500 on groceries, they're already sitting at $2,700 in monthly necessity expenses. That works out to about 57% of their take-home pay, which is actually pretty reasonable for someone living in a higher cost area. But here's where this example gets genuinely interesting and relatable. That same person might look at their budget on a Sunday afternoon and feel like they're barely scraping by financially, especially if they're also paying for multiple streaming services, eating out regularly on weekends, buying a coffee every single weekday morning, and making dozens of other small purchases that feel completely insignificant one by one, but somehow add up to hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single month without them noticing. The key, the real unlock, is being brutally honest about what you actually need versus what you simply want in the moment. Your future financial freedom depends almost entirely on your ability to make this one distinction clearly, consistently, and without making emotional excuses. Once you actually know your true necessity percentage with real numbers backing it up, you'll finally know exactly how much money you have available for everything else in your life. And everything else is precisely where the real magic of wealth building starts to happen for you. The second critical step in the paycheck routine happens before you even begin to think about spending money on anything fun or optional. You need to make absolutely sure you're staying completely current on any debt payments you might have floating around. This particular step isn't about paying off every single debt you owe immediately, although that's certainly a worthy long-term goal to work toward. This is specifically about protecting your credit score and avoiding the brutal late fees that can quietly destroy your financial progress in a single missed billing cycle. Your credit score is essentially your financial reputation. And in our current economic system, that reputation affects almost every single important decision that gets made about you financially. It directly determines what interest rate you'll pay on a future mortgage, whether you can qualify for a decent auto loan without a ridiculous rate, and sometimes even whether you can rent a specific apartment or get hired for certain jobs that run credit checks as part of the process. Here's something about credit scores that genuinely surprises most people when they first hear it. The difference between excellent credit management and terrible credit management often comes down to just a single missed payment at the wrong time. If you make 99% of your payments on time, that's generally considered good standing with lenders. But if you accidentally drop down to 97% on-time payments, your credit score can actually tank pretty dramatically in a way that takes months or even years to fix. Think about how unfair that is for just a second. In school, scoring 97% on a test would get you an A+ and a gold star. In the world of credit scoring, that exact same percentage gets you labeled as a high-risk borrower by every major lender in the country. The credit system is genuinely unforgiving at the edges, but the rules for navigating it are incredibly simple to follow. Make your minimum payments on time, every single time, without exception, and your credit score will basically take care of itself over time. Now that we've covered the critical foundation of necessities and debt, it's time to talk about something that the overwhelming majority of people completely ignore until it's already far too late to help them: building a proper emergency fund. I know. Emergency funds sound about as exciting as watching paint dry in slow motion on a humid Tuesday afternoon. But please, stick with me here, because this might honestly be the single most important part of your entire financial strategy going forward. An emergency fund is exactly what the name suggests it is. It's money you deliberately set aside in advance for when life decides to throw you a curveball. And trust me on this one, life absolutely loves throwing curveballs at the worst possible moments. Your car breaks down the morning of your most important work presentation. Your laptop dies right when you need it most for a deadline. Your dog suddenly eats something wildly expensive and needs emergency surgery. You know, a regular Tuesday. The goal is to have 3 to 6 full months of your living expenses saved up in a dedicated account that you can access immediately, without penalties or delays. This fund should not be invested in the volatile stock market, where it might randomly lose 20% of its value right when you need it most urgently. It shouldn't be locked up in some certificate of deposit where you literally can't touch the money for 6 straight months without paying early withdrawal fees. It should just be sitting there quietly in a boring savings account, ready to rescue you the second everything in your life goes sideways unexpectedly. Let's go back to our earlier example to put some real numbers on this target. If someone's monthly necessities add up to $2,700, their emergency fund should ideally sit somewhere between $8,000 and $16,000 when fully funded. That might sound like an absolutely impossible amount of money to save up, especially if you're currently living paycheck to paycheck and feeling like there's no slack in your budget. But just remember, you're not trying to save all of it in one go. You build it slowly, month by month, until it's fully funded and waiting for you. Here's the thing about emergency funds that nobody really talks about in the standard finance advice videos. They're not actually just about the money itself sitting there in an account somewhere. They're about the profound peace of mind that comes with having that cushion underneath you. When you have 3 to 6 solid months of expenses sitting safely in your savings account, you genuinely sleep differently at night, and you don't even realize how much anxiety you were carrying until it's gone. You walk into work with significantly more confidence because you know deep in your bones that if something unexpected happens to your job tomorrow, you won't be eating ramen noodles and living in your car next month. Once your emergency fund is established and sitting comfortably in place, you've officially graduated from financial survival mode all the way up to wealth building mode. This is exactly where things start to get genuinely interesting. And it's also where most people finally start seeing real, measurable progress toward their long-term financial goals for the first time in their lives. Step 4 is where you start seriously investing for your future self. And this is where the almost magical power of compound interest finally begins to work aggressively in your favor over time. If your employer offers any kind of retirement plan with matching contributions attached to it, this should absolutely be your very first priority for investing before anything else even gets considered. Think about employer matching like this for a moment. If your boss literally walked up to your desk every single month and offered to personally hand you free money in exchange for you putting some of your own money into a retirement account, you would genuinely think they had completely lost their mind, right? But that is literally exactly what employer matching is in practice. It's free money that most people leave sitting on the table every single year because they don't fully understand how powerful and rare that offer actually is. Let's say your company matches 3% of your annual salary and you make $60,000 per year at your job. That means if you contribute $1,800 annually to your retirement account, your employer will also contribute a matching $1,800 of their own money. You literally just doubled your money instantly with zero risk and zero effort. Show me a single other investment on earth that guarantees a 100% return on day one, and I'll show you something that doesn't actually exist. Beyond the employer match, you should aim to invest about 10% of your gross income for retirement over the long term. This might honestly sound like a lot, especially if you're just starting out in your career. But remember, this money is working hard for you over entire decades of your life. The earlier you start the process, the less you'll actually need to contribute each month to reach your eventual retirement goals. Here's something about retirement investing that might straight up blow your mind when you see the numbers laid out. If someone starts investing just $300 per month at age 25 and earns an average return of 8% annually, they'll end up with around $1 million by age 65. But if they wait until age 35 to start investing that exact same amount with that exact same return, they'll only have about $400,000 at retirement. That single 10-year delay costs them somewhere around $600,000 of future wealth. Time is quite literally money when it comes to investing. And every single month you wait to start is real money you're throwing directly into the trash. Step 5 is where you finally turn your attention to attacking any non-mortgage debt you might be carrying around. There are two main proven strategies for paying off debt aggressively, and both of them genuinely work if you actually stick to them long enough. The first approach is called the avalanche method, where you focus on paying off debts with the highest interest rates first while making minimum payments on everything else. Mathematically, this approach saves you the most money in interest payments over the total payoff period. The second approach is called the snowball method, where you pay off your smallest debts first, regardless of what their interest rates happen to be. This isn't technically the most financially optimal approach on a spreadsheet, but it can be incredibly motivating in practice because you actually see debts disappearing quickly from your list, which gives you real psychological momentum to keep pushing forward. I personally prefer the snowball method myself, and because personal finance is honestly way more about psychology than it is about mathematics. At the end of the day, if paying off your smallest debt first keeps you motivated enough to continue the entire process to completion, then that's absolutely the right strategy for you, even if it costs you a few extra dollars in interest along the way. The key is picking one method and sticking with it until every piece of your non-mortgage debt is completely gone. After you've handled your employer retirement match and you're making real progress on your debt payments, you can finally start exploring other investment options, like opening your own personal retirement accounts or investing in regular taxable brokerage accounts. A Roth retirement account is particularly attractive for most people because all of your gains inside it grow completely tax-free for the rest of your life. You pay taxes on the money you contribute now while you're still working, but when you eventually retire and start withdrawing those funds decades later, you won't owe a single cent of taxes on any of the growth. It's honestly like planting a tree in your backyard today and then never having to pay taxes on any of the fruit it produces for the next 50 years of your life. Final step that ties absolutely everything together is probably the single most important one in the entire routine. And it's the step that truly separates the people who actually build serious wealth from the people who just endlessly talk about building wealth on social media. You need to automate every single thing we just discussed in this entire video, top to bottom. Here's the honest truth about willpower that most finance gurus won't tell you. It's like a muscle that gets genuinely tired throughout the day with use, and by evening it's completely gone. You might wake up on a Monday morning feeling totally motivated to manage your money perfectly for the entire week ahead, but by Thursday evening, when you're exhausted from work and stressed about everything else going on in your life, that motivation has completely evaporated into thin air. You'll look at your bank account and think, you know what, I'll just move that money over to savings next week when I have more energy to deal with it. Spoiler alert, that you already know deep down, next week you're going to have even less energy than you do right now. This is precisely why automation is absolutely critical to making any of this actually work in real life. When your money moves automatically, according to your preset plan, you completely remove human emotion and laziness from the equation entirely. Your money gets allocated correctly, whether you're having a great day or a terrible day, whether you feel motivated or completely burned out, whether you remember to check your account or forget for 3 weeks straight. Here's exactly how I personally handle automation in my own life. And you can honestly copy this system exactly if you want to. When my paycheck hits my checking account, I let it sit there undisturbed for exactly 1 full day. Not because the money actually needs time to settle or anything like that, but because I'm slightly paranoid about timing issues. And I want to make absolutely sure everything has cleared properly before any transfers start firing off. Then, on the very next day after I get paid, automatic transfers start happening like clockwork without any input from me. A predetermined amount moves from my checking account straight over to my savings account. From there, additional automatic transfers move specific amounts of money to specific goals I've set in advance. The truly beautiful thing about this entire system is that I genuinely never have to think about any of it day to day. It just happens automatically in the background, like my rent payment going out or my phone bill getting paid without my involvement. This entire paycheck routine honestly isn't rocket science. And anyone listening right now can implement it, starting with their very next paycheck. It works so well specifically because almost nobody actually follows any kind of real system with their money. Start treating your paycheck like the serious wealth building tool it actually is. Instead of like Monopoly money you happen to find crumpled up in your couch cushions. Automate everything top to bottom. Stick religiously to the plan for at least a year, and in 5 years from today, you'll be quietly laughing at how simple the whole thing really was, while everyone around you is still desperately wondering where all their money disappeared to month after month. If this video genuinely helped you out today, please go ahead and hit that like button right now so the algorithm starts showing this to more people who desperately need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos breaking down exactly this kind of practical money strategy. And drop a comment below telling me which step of the routine you're planning to start with this week. I read every single comment personally, and I'll catch you in the next video.